Well, of course, you're welcome back. It's time now to take a look at the front pages of the national dailies, and we have a social affairs commentator here in the studios with us, Ayodele Adio. Ayodele, thank you very much indeed for coming.
Good to see you.
Yes,
are you recharged for the new week, especially after the May Day celebrations?
Oh yeah, it's a new month also.
Yeah,
so
absolutely,
happy new month.
absolutely. Happy new month. All right, we'll begin with the Punch. Trump's comment, a wake-up call to Buhari, can Afenifere others as 27 die in Adamawa bomb attacks. Muslim group berates U.S. president. Well,
yeah, I mean, I can understand, you know, the fact that the Muslim community in Nigeria are quite miffed because, you know, the message President Trump tried to send to the entire world, and of course that's the global community, was that Christians were being persecuted in Nigeria, and that's quite an oversimplistic and dangerous narrative to let out there, because Muslims, as much Muslims have died, you know, as you have Christians in Nigeria. And so we need to look at these issues dispassionately, not from the prism of religion or socio-cultural differences.
Yeah, well, some will tell you, in addition to saying the way Christians are being killed is totally unacceptable, that he went on to say, and the killing of innocent Nigerians, that would...
Well, I mean,
every other Nigerian.
I don't think that. Yeah, I don't think that absolves it completely.
Yeah.
I think the fact that he singled that out, you know, that Mr. President, we don't appreciate the killing of Christians in the country. I think it sends a dangerous narrative to the international community.
Do understand that. Yeah. All right, God will judge Nigeria's past leaders, says Buhari, accuses predecessors of completing very few projects.
I think God will judge every leader, past or present.
Is he giving up the fight?
You know, yes.
Can we start the judging from here?
The one thing, you know, of the many assets of Mr. President, top of which is his impeccable integrity, the one thing that doesn't just sit well with me is the fact that he just likes to look at the rear mirror. You know, this continuous, you know... Consistently. I just find it a bit disturbing.
And nobody makes progress.
Exactly,
looking back.
And there is a sense in which if you continue to gaze at the rear mirror, you could have an accident.
Oh yes, definitely. So we need to focus and move.
All right, the other stories here. Senate panel presents impeachment reports today. Grills IG on Melaye. Of course, May Day processions and matches. NLC wants 66,500 minimum wage for all workers. Whether they will get that is another matter entirely. Okay.
Well, let's take a look at the front page of the Nation newspaper, and the Nation leads off with something entirely different. Obasanjo's "don't run" letter was abusive, so says Buhari.
Well, I mean, everyone knows Obasanjo has, former President Obasanjo has a history of writing very strongly worded letters, and he never hides his criticisms, particularly when the government of the day seems to be going off course, if you'd like. Again, I do not think you know, the president should take or join issues with past President Obasanjo. He should focus on the issues that bother the everyday Nigerian, which is you and I, top of which is job creation, employment opportunities for young Nigerians. You look at the World Bank report that just got released a couple of weeks ago. It shows that the rates of poverty increased over 2017. It showed that there are more poor people in Nigeria.
As a matter of fact, Nigeria has taken over India as the poorest, a nation with the poorest people.
There's a lot of work to be done. And to focus on something, you know, like Obasanjo's letter, for me, is tokenist.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, you've got to look at a penchant to always respond to issues outside of the shores of the country. You know, remember the comment about the lazy youths, you know, and all of that. And then this was a letter written here. So why did he not respond, you know, here? You've got to...
well, so many words. Moving on.
Well, still on the front page of the Nation newspaper, 34.4 million customers captured in BVN. That's coming from the Central Bank of Nigeria.
I mean, that's quite a step in the right direction. You know, the more people that we can capture, the more we, you know, reduce the chances of fraudulent practices, particularly through the financial system. What I'm yet to see, though, is the fact that every year we talk about ghost workers, in their hundreds of thousands, and we keep wondering through what system do they collect this money, you know, at the end of the day.
Well, of course, federal government plans to come down hard on banks that have been, you know, shielding a lot of customers.
Because the banks have definitely been complicit.
Oh, they definitely have been.
The chief executives would be in the firing line. Well, another story here, 27 die in Adamawa explosions. The explosions keep coming.
Very sad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, really sad.
Okay, let's quickly move on. The Daily Sun reports the same, though the figures are different. As a matter of fact, some people will tell you it's way more than 68 that the Daily Sun is reporting. As Nigerians celebrate Workers' Day, bomb kills 68 and 56 others injured in Adamawa twin blast. President orders recruitment of 6,000 policemen. INEC panel confirms underage voters in Kano. Most northern youths uneducated. Buhari still repeating himself. I mean, he's tried to, you know, according to him, it's the media. The media just like to twist things.
No, but I mean, President Buhari is a world leader. He's led this country as governor, as PTF chairman, as president before.
As minister, petroleum minister.
And now again. So I believe he should be conversant with how the media and the gimmicks of the media. But when you're in the international community, there is a consequence for sending a certain kind of narrative, you know, to the global community. And it's frightening because for a country like Nigeria, and you're having a meeting with somebody like President Trump, and you're telling the whole world that, you know, your people are largely uneducated, are largely poor, even though that's the truth. What you're doing, remember that one of the biggest supporters of President Trump is the NRA.
Yeah, the Rifle Association.
And if you look at the way guns move globally, they go to areas that are poor, resource-driven, and in despair. So you kind of give these people a nudge that there could be a market opportunity for my bullets and guns here, because these are where frustrated people are. So you don't want to give those kind of narrative to the international community. You want to boost the image of your country each time you're outside the shores of the country.
Instead of demarketing it.
And sorry, you know, there is also what is called contextual meaning, so that when you talk, you must understand.
Taken out of context.
Exactly.
You must understand that people will infer meanings from it.
And you give people the chance to do that. Now, generator smoke causes panic. CBN dispels a rumor of fire.
Well, I mean, we saw the whole
and this
smoke
is really huge. It is really huge. I mean,
well, we're glad no life was lost, and
thankfully.
it was nipped in the bud.
Okay. All right. No peace until FG seeks God's forgiveness, and that's Wike speaking there.
All right, let's look at the front page.
God lives in Nigeria.
You know, it was John Mbiti, a philosopher of Kenyan origin, who said Africans are notoriously religious.
Oh, yes.
You know?
Oh, yes.
Well, let's look at the front page of This Day newspaper, and talks about a killing in Mobi. Well, in relation to the attacks that have been happening, I think about a week or two ago, if I'm not mistaken, the House of Reps, members of the House of Reps met, and then they came to the conclusion that it has become imperative for the leadership of the security apparatus to be to allow for fresh ideas,
or totally,
fresh approaches to
totally sacked and fresh blood brought in.
I have to be brutally honest with you. I think sometimes we must find the courage to call a spade what it is. If people have been dying needlessly, I mean, we don't need to pat it at the back. There just needs to be a reshuffle. Probably fresh hands will bring in fresh ideas, because these killings have becoming overwhelmingly consistent. You can't have people dying in their numbers. And just back to what I tried to express earlier, you remember these killings, this bomb blast in Adamawa, where did it happen?
In Mobi.
In Mobi, you know, close to a Muslim community, where lots of Muslims died. So you see that, you know, both Christians and Muslims continue to get killed needlessly, largely due to you know, a failure of our internal security apparatus. And whether we like it or not, somebody has to take the bull by the horn and decide to rejig this thing. We just, I mean, we're tired of saying this thing every single day. Our country is getting broken.
Well, before we start sounding like broken record, this is an interesting one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Finally, federal government bans production of cough syrups containing codeine.
First of all, I don't know why you guys are not shouting to the rooftop, because I remember sometime
about
last
codeine
year,
addiction.
Yes.
Oh, we've treated that
yes,
on
well,
the show a number of times. I will continue to talk about it.
I know that, what's your reporter's name? I
Yes,
think Joker
from the north,
did a story one
yeah.
time on. So how come we just suddenly woke up because the BBC did the report when there have been countless of reports in our country? I remember even the Senate president sometime last year declared some sort of an emergency for drug war in Nigeria. It's a serious problem in northern Nigeria.
It is. And
unfortunately, I do not think that banning this drug will be the answer. Because if you look at systemic ways of dealing with issues, you realize that the outright banning of an addictive drug doesn't stop the
it just makes those who deal in this drug
even
make more money.
Yeah, it just creates a larger market, more
and
incentive and all of that. So I think they should sit a couple of thinkers together to research the issues properly before taking a decision. This is quite a hasty decision. People will just find other ways to push these drugs into the community. So banning is just not
one of those reactionary measures.
Exactly.
Okay, to the New Telegraph, and that's our last paper this morning. Most northern youths uneducated, says Buhari.
Well, what are you doing about it? Listen, I mean, I give an analogy. If you moved into a house, a new house, and your roof is leaking, okay? And, a friend came to see you in the house, and he sees that the roof is leaking. And he asks you, your roof is leaking, Auntie Ngozi, and you say, yes. I mean, the old tenant must have kept this house in a bad shape. Your friend understands, and you guys blame the tenant. If she comes back 2 months later, and the roof is still leaking, you say, that tenant is that tenant. Then she comes back 6 months later, and your roof is still leaking. Then who now has the problem?
Okay. Looted funds. Nigeria, US agree on return of $500 million. That's a good one. Suicide bombers kill 60 in Adamawa. All right. Now you have the final paper.
Yes, the Vanguard newspaper. Well, the labor union, they seem to have got a bargaining chip at the moment, and then they are saying, look, if you don't pay the minimum wage in 2019, I beg your pardon, if you don't pay the new minimum wage, then 2019 we won't vote for any government. That's a good bargaining.
Well, I just hope that the issues are discussed objectively, because there are consequences for a sudden spike in wages. There's a correlation between wage increase and the rate of inflation in a country. So you have to look at those indices carefully, and that's on the one side. On the second side is you have to also rethink the fact that you expect every single state to pay the same minimum wage. I think you're going to have a problem with that, because you have about
IGR
25 states that are insolvent in the country, and you expect them to pay the same minimum wage across board. I think you'll just be guilty of
some of them are already
clouds.
saying whatever the federal government comes up with, we will agree. Imo State, for example, Okorocha has actually given all workers in his state automatic promotion, and he says, look, I love you so much, I'm even ready to give you a sleeping allowance.
I mean, we're not...
That's really... I mean, that just takes the cake.
I mean, we've had these kind of promises in the time past, and then people just, for some... When oil
Why
price
wait until
dwindles,
May Day before you actually realize what you need to do for workers?
I just don't think that you can have a uniform minimum wage across the country. Remember also that this minimum wage also applies to the private sector. The question is, will the private sector be willing to pay stewards and what have you 60,000 naira per month? And if they can't, what it means literally is that they are going to retrench. And that has serious consequences for the economy at large. So the labor people have to sit down carefully, be objective about this and count the cost, do the plus and minus before. Remember that the entire civil service, the entire people employed by both federal, state and local government is 4 million Nigerians. Just 4 million out of 198 million Nigerians. So you can't make policies solely dependent on just 4 million people and plunge the entire 198 people into trouble.
Well, we're talking about the labor union. The Minister for Labor, I beg your pardon, Rivers State Governor Wike says that labor has failed Nigerians. What's your take on that?
I'm not sure, as to exactly what he means by labor has failed Nigerians, but what I know for sure is that you need a leadership in the labor that looks at the issues objectively, that is willing to sit on the table to negotiate some of these tough decisions and come to some conclusive end that benefits all Nigerians.
And not just focus on minimum wage.
We can't just continue doing the same things that we've been doing since 1980 and expect a different outcome. Just doesn't make sense.
That's it's called insanity. Yeah. All right, that's it for the paper review this morning. Right, thank you very much. Ayo Adio.